Members of the Legislative Assembly, ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the entrance of the Lieutenant Governor and the Vice-Regal Party.
His Honor, the Honorable W. Thomas Malloy, Lieutenant Governor of Saskatchewan.
Pray, be seated. Mr. Speaker, members of the Legislative Assembly, honored guests, people of Saskatchewan. Welcome to the opening of the third session of the 28th Legislature of the Province of Saskatchewan. This time of year, many families in our province gather to share a meal together, celebrating what we are thankful for, and for many in our agricultural industry, reflecting on another harvest. This year, the true Saskatchewan spirit came through when one family needed help. Brian Williams, a father of three who farms near Milestone and is known as a pillar of his community, passed away just as harvest was beginning. Milestone Mayor Jeff Brown called out for help to harvest a section of Brian's wheat. Expecting 6 or 7 combines might show, he was shocked when 20 combines, 4 grain carts, and 100 volunteers showed up. Working in a V formation with Brian's favorite Case International Harvester combine leading the way, the section of wheat was finished in just a few hours. Those of us in this great province know Mayor Brown should not have been surprised by this community effort. We see this kindness and strength across our province, but not only in times of tragedy. Strength is built as challenges are faced head-on, and that is what my government will continue to do as it stands up for Saskatchewan's interest, our economy, and most importantly, our people. 3 years of low resource prices created both economic and fiscal challenges for our province. Today, our economy and provincial finances are showing clear signs of improvement. However, many challenges remain. These challenges are being created by world economic conditions, continued U.S. trade sanctions against our steel and uranium industries, and unfortunately, in some instances, by our own federal government. My government will continue to meet these challenges by standing up for Saskatchewan, by working to protect and grow our economy, and by carefully managing taxpayers' dollars while delivering important government programs and services to the people of Saskatchewan. My government's 3-year plan to reduce the province's dependence on resource revenue and return the budget to balance remains on track. After a $1.2 billion budget deficit in 2016-2017, my government made some difficult but necessary decisions in the 2017-2018 budget. These decisions, the 2017-18 deficit, those decisions reduced the 2017-2018 deficit to $303 million. This past spring, the Finance Minister delivered the 2018-2019 budget, which kept my government's 3-year budget plan on track while also making important investments for Saskatchewan people. Moody's recently reconfirmed a AAA credit rating score for Saskatchewan, making our province one of only 2 Canadian provinces to achieve Moody's highest credit rating. During this session, my government will deliver the 2019-2020 budget, and it will be a balanced budget. Strong financial management provides a solid foundation for the province's economy, and this year, Saskatchewan has seen clear signs of an improving economy. Our population continues to grow, reaching 1,162,000 people as of July 1st, an increase of more than 11,000 in the past year and 160,000 in the past 11 years. During that time, Saskatchewan has enjoyed the second fastest rate of job growth in the country, with 62,700 more people now working in our province. The population and the number of jobs has grown because our economy has grown. Saskatchewan's gross domestic product has grown from $49 billion in 2007 to more than $60 billion in 2017, an increase of 22% in a decade. During that time, public and private capital investment grew at 5 times the national rate, increasing by 70% to more than $14 billion. The Fraser Institute's 2017 survey for mining investment ranks Saskatchewan second out of 91 jurisdictions in the world for mining investment attractiveness. To encourage further growth, the new 4-year mineral development strategy announced this spring creates an incentive program to encourage mineral exploration and will also increase the amount of geophysical data available. My government will continue exploring ways to maintain and improve the competitiveness of our oil and gas industry. This will be done by expanding existing incentives and introducing new oil well drilling and production incentives. Technology and innovation play a critical role in growing Saskatchewan's economy. This includes the new Saskatchewan Technological Startup Incentive, which is a non-refundable tax credit and designed to encourage investment in early-stage technological companies. Innovation in Saskatchewan will also continue to invest in the technology incubator CoLabs, which has helped form more than 50 companies receiving programming support and mentorship, resulting in more than $5 million in private investment for those companies. A growing economy and strong financial management has allowed my government to make important investments that improve the quality of life in our province and make life more affordable for Saskatchewan people. This includes the creation and enhancement of the Saskatchewan Low-Income Tax Credit, tripling the seniors' income plan benefit for lowering-income seniors and increasing personal, spousal, and child tax exemptions to the point where 112,000 more people no longer pay any provincial income tax. A strong economy also provides the resources to improve the quality of life for our citizens through important infrastructure investments. This fall, thousands of students in the province started another school year in a brand new school built for them and thousands of future students. 1 year ago, my government completed 18 new joint-use schools that will provide space for more than 11,000 students and remain in like-new conditions for the next 30 years, thanks to my government's innovative P3 contracts. 2 more schools will be built using traditional methods, contributing to the $1.6 billion my government has invested in education infrastructure in the past decade, including 40 new schools and 25 major school renovations. Using both P3 and traditional models, my government will continue to support our education system and our students by using the model that makes the most sense with each new project. My government remains committed to modernizing healthcare infrastructure with approximately $1.5 billion invested over the past decade. This includes completion of 2 new hospitals and 14 long-term care facilities and ongoing capital contributions to the construction of 2 additional hospitals. My government is nearing completion of the new psychiatric hospital in North Battleford. Once complete, the new state-of-art hospital will be among the most innovative mental health treatment centers in the country and ensure those facing significant mental health needs receive the best treatment available. Through a phased-in approach, 188 mental health beds will be available to deliver mental health care and support, and an adjoining correctional facility will provide 96 beds for offenders living with mental health challenges. The new long-term care facility in Swift Current and Saskatchewan Hospital North Battleford both used a P3 model, allowing my government to save more than $100 million throughout the life of these 2 contracts, money that instead can be invested in other projects or to improve frontline services. My government understands the importance of ensuring all Saskatchewan residents are connected through accessible, reliable internet and cellular services. This year, SaskTel expanded its high-speed Fusion internet to 35 additional rural locations in the province, completing phase 1 of my government's plan to provide communities with enhanced access to high-speed internet services. As part of Phase 2 of this plan, SaskTel is working to improve 4G LTE cellular services in 100 rural Saskatchewan communities through the development of small cell site solutions, with the first communities expected to be completed this spring. My government understands the significant role transportation infrastructure plays in the success of Saskatchewan, enabling growth and making travel safer for everyone. That's why more than 13,000 kilometers of highway have been built or improved, and 275 bridges have been repaired or replaced since 2007. Just this month, the Chief Missed the Wasis Bridge in North Saskatoon was open to traffic. One of the most significant projects is the Regina Bypass, which offers a long-term safety solution for Regina and surrounding area. The Regina Bypass will be completed next October on time and on budget. New interchanges at Warman and Martinsville, two of the fastest growing communities in Saskatchewan, will be open to traffic this fall, approximately a full year ahead of schedule. These projects reduce congestion, improve traffic safety, and support future growth. My government is moving to a single procurement service for the nearly $2 billion worth of goods and services procured each year. This is estimated to result in significant savings thanks to the increased coordination, while ensuring the best value for taxpayers and fair treatment for Saskatchewan suppliers. My government recently signed a bilateral agreement with the Government of Canada to provide nearly $900 million for infrastructure projects over the next decade. This agreement will result in long-term infrastructure investments that will create jobs and enhance the quality of life for people around the province. Improving safety for Saskatchewan people is a priority of my government. The Protection and Response Team, PRT, was created 1 year ago to reduce crime, particularly in rural areas, by bringing together highway patrol officers, conservation officers, RCMP, and municipal police officers. The PRT has improved response times and enhanced officers' visibility in rural Saskatchewan. Since the launch of the PRT in April, conservation officers and highway patrol officers have assisted with more than 1,300 PRT-related actions, including responding to 83 emergency 911 calls. These calls include assisting with a high-risk takedown, which resulted in multiple arrests, locating a theft suspect, finding an 82-year-old woman who had left the farm on an extremely warm summer day, and responding to the Humboldt Broncos bus crash. PRT vehicles are also equipped with automatic license plate readers funded by SGI. As these devices can scan license plates, they alert officers if a vehicle is stolen, is connected to a crime, or is connected to a driver who has been suspended for impaired driving or other reasons. To help with safety on our roads, my government has introduced a number of measures to reduce impaired driving rates in Saskatchewan. This province has some of the toughest impaired driving laws in the country. These laws were strengthened in 2014 and again in 2017, and most recently, stronger new laws came into effect last month. These most recent changes specifically target drug-impaired drivers and those caught driving impaired while transporting children. This fall, my government will be proclaiming the Vehicle for Hire Act that will allow ride-sharing services to begin operations in communities across Saskatchewan, which will provide another option for a safe ride home. My government is seeing results while recognizing there is still more to do. Preliminary data shows a 40% decrease in alcohol-related fatalities between 2016 and 2017. This fall, the minister responsible for SGI was awarded the Mad Canadian Citizen of Distinction Award for government efforts to reduce impaired driving, injuries, and fatalities. During this session, my government will introduce changes to commercial driving training to improve safety on Saskatchewan roads. Saskatchewan has been working closely with other Western provinces to improve commercial driver training and ensure consistent standards between provinces. The Minister of Highways is implementing an intersection safety strategy to reduce the potential for collisions at highway intersections. Highways has already conducted a preliminary review of more than 900 intersections and has dedicated $700,000 this year to clearing sightlines and improving intersection safety. The budget for Safety Improvement Program, which funds projects like turning lanes, lighting, guardrails, and rumble strips, has increased from $1.1 million in 2007 to $7 million in 2018. My government is committed to further increasing funding for these important safety initiatives in next year's budget. Cannabis is now legal across the country, and my government has implemented a framework and retail model to prioritize public health and safety while balancing the need to provide legal access. A competitive private model for the distribution and retail sale of cannabis in Saskatchewan has been chosen to ensure a safe, regulated supply of cannabis and minimize the upfront costs to taxpayers. My government has also chosen the legal age of consumption to be 19 and has taken a zero-tolerance approach for drug-impaired driving. My government recognizes the benefit regional policing services provide for our community. During this session, my government will amend the Police Act to enable rural municipalities and municipalities with populations under 500 to join regional police services. My government is also taking steps to make crime less profitable by introducing changes to the Seizure of Criminal Property Act. These changes will make it easier for property to be seized if it has been acquired due to or used in unlawful activities, such as serious firearm offenses or sexual offenses involving children. The federal government has committed at least $10 million over the next 5 years towards Saskatchewan's guns and gang strategy that will merge and enhance investigative enforcement efforts to make our communities safer. My government recently undertook a process of public consultation on trespassing laws and expects to introduce legislation to better address the appropriate balance between the rights of rural landowners and the members of the public. During this session, my government will introduce legislation to address domestic violence by bringing Clare's Law to Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan will be the first province in Canada with this legislation. It was introduced in the United Kingdom and named in honor of Claire Wood, a woman who was murdered by her partner and was unaware of his violent past. Claire's father fought for more disclosure by police to protect domestic violence victims. This legislation will provide a framework for Saskatchewan Police Services to disclose relevant information about someone's violent or abusive past to intimate partners who may be at risk. To help victims of sexual violence in our province, interpersonal violence leave will be expanded to include sexual violence of any kind. This amendment to the Saskatchewan Employment Act will allow employees to access up to 10 unpaid days of leave to seek medical attention, access supports, get legal or law enforcement assistance, or relocate if they or their children are victims of any kind of sexual violence. My government continues to place a strong emphasis on recruiting and retaining medical professionals. There are more than 3,700 nurses and nearly 900 more doctors practicing across the province since 2007. Saskatchewan continues to lead the country in developing innovative solutions to blend the delivery of healthcare services with public and private providers. Our province has innovated 2-for-1 MRI policy introduced in 2016 has enabled nearly 1,400 additional MRI scans to be provided to patients at no additional costs to taxpayers. A focus on more effective delivering health care services led by my government to transition 12 health regions into the Saskatchewan Health Authority last summer. By moving to a single authority, my government expects to save between $10 and $20 million annually while providing more coordinated care. Work is underway to establish performance-based ambulance contracts with the goal of reducing rural response times and ensuring the closest ambulance available is dispatched. Today, in our province, nearly 90,000 surgeries are performed every year, and there are 44% fewer patients waiting more than 3 months for surgery than a decade ago. My government remains committed to reducing hospital wait times in hospital emergency departments. In addition to the accountable care units already in operation in Saskatoon and Regina, my government is in the process of establishing 3 more units. These units bring together a variety of health professionals to create a team approach to care which has reduced wait times for inpatient beds. 2 community health centers will also be established this year in Regina and Saskatoon to help patients with complex needs and reduce emergency department visits and hospital stays. My government will also increase investment in individualized funding for home care to reduce the wait list and provide support for additional individuals. The new Jim Pattison Children's Hospital in Saskatoon is now 92% complete and is expected to open in 2019. This facility will provide world-class health care to our province's children, expecting mothers, and their families. As part of a strong commitment to health care and its future in the province, my government continues to invest in the College of Medicine and its full accreditation. The College of Medicine and the new Jim Pattison Children's Hospital will enhance my government's ability to attract pediatric specialists, subspecialists, and surgeons to our province. A focus on improved access to mental health services continues as crisis team pairings, a police officer with mental health professionals will be fully operational this winter in Moose Jaw, North Battleford, Yorkton, and Prince Albert. Multidisciplinary community recovery teams made up of 40 new full-time employees will be offering services in 8 communities by the end of this year to support people with complex and persistent mental illness. This winter, a pilot program to engage youth in mental health promotion will be launched in schools located in the communities of North Battleford, Sandy Bay, Regina, and Balgony. To help address opiate-related overdose deaths, my government introduced the Take-Home Naxalox Own Kit program, which has been established in 23 Saskatchewan communities to date. This program has distributed more than 1,100 kits and trained 2,800 people. Saskatchewan's HIV rates remain high, which is why my government introduced universal drug coverage for HIV medications and providing additional funds to community-based organizations working with vulnerable populations. My government has fulfilled its commitment to provide individualized funding for children under 6 who are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. In 2018-2019, $2.8 million has been allocated to provide up to $4,000 annually per child, giving parents more choice and flexibility to access the support that best meets their child's needs. Annual funding of $500,000 will continue for the use of cutting-edge technology to improve care in remote and northern communities. Remote presence technology enables healthcare providers to perform real-time assessments, diagnosis, and patient management through tools including a mobile robot or a smaller portable device known as a dock-in-a-box. Saskatchewan is one of the world leaders in this technology, thanks to Dr. Ivor Mendez and his team at the University of Saskatchewan. Through the use and expansion of remote presence technology, residents located in Stony Rapids, La Loche, Pelican Narrows, English River Dene Nation, Fond du Lac, Clearwater River Dene Nation, and Hatchet Lake will continue to benefit from these services. My government is standing up for future generations with investments in children of all ages. In 2018-2019, my government will provide $2.5 billion in educating funding to support pre-kindergarten to grade 12 classrooms, early years libraries, and literacy. This includes an increase of $30 million this year for schools operating funding, which was used to hire up to 400 teachers and educational support staff this fall. My government also recognizes the importance of investing in children who need extra support and has created 2 new pilot projects to help children with additional needs before they enter school. For students living in northern Saskatchewan, funding for northern school divisions has increased by more than $14 million annually, a jump of nearly 25% from a decade ago. My government recognizes the importance families play in their children's development. A great example of this is the Sandy Bay Family Resource Center, which provides young families with free activities, advice, and support, and has seen nearly 4,000 visits in 2017-2018, the equivalent of every member of that community visiting 5 times. More than 42,500 students are enrolled in credentialed programs at Saskatchewan's post-secondary institutions, an increase of more than 7% over the last 4 years. More First Nations and Dene students are attending and graduating from Saskatchewan's post-secondary institutions. The number of credentials awarded to First Nations and Métis students has increased 35% since 2013. To support students pursuing an education at our province's universities, colleges, and technical schools, my government has provided $9.1 billion since 2007 to support post-secondary education, including nearly $1 billion in direct student support. This includes the Graduate Retention Program, which has benefited nearly 70,000 students who have decided to stay and build their careers in Saskatchewan after completing their post-secondary education. My government is expanding opportunities for students to improve their understanding and skills in financial literacy through the development of new curricula, which will be piloted in schools in 2019. To help prepare our students for careers in science, math, engineering, and technology, new opportunities in coding and robotics will be incorporated into middle years and high school classrooms during the next school year. My government understands that working people in Saskatchewan must balance their job responsibilities with taking care of their family. This session, the Saskatchewan Employment Act will be amended to create a new critically ill adult leave. This will enable family members of critically ill adults to take a 15-week leave to care for their family member in their time of need. The arrival of a child is an exciting time for a family, and one that requires planning and time to care for the newest family member. My government will further amend the Saskatchewan Employment Act to expand parental leave from 37 weeks to 63 weeks and add an additional week of maternity leave, providing up to 13 weeks prior to the expected date of birth of the child. These changes will provide parents with additional time to prepare and care for the newborn child before returning to work. It can be difficult for individuals who have been on income assistance to transition into the workforce. To help alleviate the gap between income assistance and transitioning to a career, my government will review the income exemption and consult with stakeholders to look at increasing the amount of income clients can receive before their benefits are adjusted. This means those accessing income assistance will be able to work in a job of their choice to gain valuable experience to help them transition into a self-sustaining career. My government recognizes the invaluable contribution and sacrifices our nation's veterans have made protecting Canada. It's a debt that we can never fully repay. As a small act to show our appreciation to these brave men and women, my government will offer free fishing and hunting licenses to all Canadian veterans. My government will make moving to Saskatchewan easier for military personnel and their families. Members of the military and their immediately family members will be eligible for an exemption for a first-time registered vehicle inspection for a vehicle brought to Saskatchewan from another jurisdiction. This session, my government will apologize to those in our province impacted by the 60 scoop. This practice occurred across Canada and involved taking Indigenous children from their families and their communities for adoption or placement in foster homes. My government is working closely with the 60 Scoop Indigenous Society of Saskatchewan to prepare an apology. This work will provide those affected by the 60 Scoop an opportunity to share their stories and to work together towards a path of reconciliation and healing. While both Saskatchewan's economy and our provincial finances are showing signs of improvement, serious threats remain. My government will continue to show strong leadership by standing up to Saskatchewan in response to these threats. A very real challenge to our province is a federal carbon tax. This tax is an ineffective policy that will not significantly reduce emissions. Instead, it will harm our economy and make life less affordable for the Saskatchewan people. Recent research from the University of Regina confirms a carbon tax would reduce our provincial GDP by $16 billion by 2030. At the same time, Ottawa's plan would reduce emissions by only 1%. My government is taking action to stand up for Saskatchewan communities, families, businesses, and jobs by challenging the federal carbon tax in court. Saskatchewan believes that Ottawa does not have the constitutional authority to impose a tax on some provinces, but not others, based on whether or not the federal government agrees with the province's climate change plan. While some have called our court challenge a pointless crusade and suggested that Saskatchewan should simply give in to Ottawa's demands, a recent poll showed that nearly 88% of Saskatchewan people and 72% of all Canadians support my government's decision to fight the federal carbon tax in court. Not long ago, Saskatchewan stood alone in defending our citizens against the federal carbon tax. Not anymore. The new government of Ontario has also shown its support in fighting the federal carbon tax by cancelling its cap and trade program, joining my government's reference case against the carbon tax and launching its own. The government of Manitoba recently announced that it has canceled its proposed carbon tax and will resist the implementation of a carbon tax by the federal government. The government of Prince Edward Island is also against the federal carbon tax and, like Saskatchewan, has its own plan to reduce emissions without a harmful tax. Should the government change in New Brunswick, as expected, the new government will also join our fight against the federal carbon tax. At the same time that my government is fighting the federal carbon tax, it is also taking meaningful action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by implementing the Prairie Resilience Climate Change Strategy. This plan includes commitments to reduce annual emissions by nearly 12 million tons by 2030, by reducing emissions from electrical generation by 40%, decreasing methane emissions from upstream oil and gas production by 40%, and implementing output-based performance standards for heavy industry. This session, my government will introduce the Management and Reduction of Greenhouse Gases Amendment Act to establish intensity-based performance standards for large emitters and enable compliance mechanisms, including a technological fund offset system and best performance credits. These measures are in addition to the strong work Saskatchewan is already doing to address climate change. Our agricultural industry has annually sequestered nearly 12 million tons of carbon in recent years, and the carbon capture and storage unit at Boundary Dam has recovered more than 2 million tons of carbon emissions from the atmosphere. My government has taken action to increase renewable energy capacity and flare gas energy productions from oil and gas facilities. The Blue Hills Wind Power Project recently received approval to proceed. Saskatchewan's first utility-scale solar power project will be in service next year through a 20-year agreement between Sask Power and Saturn Power. Power Generation Partner Programs was recently announced to help industry capture flare gas for power production, and Sask Power and the First Nations Power Authority have signed an agreement to source energy from flare gas power generation projects. This session, my government will also renew programming to help Saskatchewan residents generate renewable power for their own use, and will announce further actions to increase renewable generating capacity in 2019. Saskatchewan's plan will accomplish our goal of addressing climate change, result in real emission reduction, and ensure our industries remain competitive without the harm to our economy caused by a costly and ineffective federal carbon tax. Our province relies heavily on trade and recognizes the importance of attracting new investment. Saskatchewan exports are up significantly from $19 billion in 2007 to around $29 billion in 2017. Our exporters are also diversifying their markets. Exports to China have tripled to $3.5 billion over the past decade, while exports to India have grown by 94% to $1.1 billion last year. While Saskatchewan has seen significant growth in exports and the jobs it creates over the past decade, today our province is facing challenges in this area. Burdensome regulations being brought in by the federal government, combined with tax reform in the United States, has resulted in a dramatic loss of investor confidence in our nation. Foreign direct investment in Canada has declined by more than 74% in the past decade, from $125.5 billion in 2007 to only $32 billion in 2017. Canada's level of competitiveness on the world stage has gone south. So has investment. At the same time that resource companies are making record investments and creating thousands of new jobs in the Permian Basin in the United States, higher federal taxes, overregulation, and the large oil price differential caused by a lack of new pipelines is causing many of these same companies to reduce their investment in Canada. The largest trading partner for our nation and this province is the United States. Our interconnected economies see millions of dollars of goods cross the border daily, benefiting businesses and consumers and supporting jobs on both sides of the border. While the new United States-Mexico-Canada agreement will ensure continued access to U.S. markets for Saskatchewan products, protectionist threats from the U.S. administration remain. Our province continues to face the threat of tariffs on Saskatchewan softwood lumber and steel. This is in addition to the United States Department of Commerce spurious investigation of Saskatchewan uranium as a threat to U.S. national security and possible tariffs that may arise from that investigation. My government will continue to work with Ottawa to support the Canadian economy and this critical trading relationship, while supporting our own customers and connections to the United States to preserve Saskatchewan's relationship with our largest trading partner. Saskatchewan exports to India have also taken a direct hit since 2015, declining by nearly 40%. The Prime Minister's recent trip to India was not successful in achieving the elimination of trade barriers on Saskatchewan pulse crops. My government will be part of a Saskatchewan business delegation going to India this November to encourage investment and strengthen the partnership with this large trading partner. The Premier recently completed a trade mission to China. Unfortunately, Saskatchewan remains reliant on our federal government to negotiate international trade agreements, and Canada's trade relationship with China has stalled as our country has not started formal trade discussions as expected. The Government of Canada has also not indicated a willingness to expand uranium imports to China, an initiative that would benefit northern Saskatchewan miners and workers. Saskatchewan is an export-driven province. We produce many of the products in demand around the world in industries like agriculture, oil and gas, and mining. Saskatchewan exports have grown 44% over the last decade, with nearly $29 billion of exports last year. Agricultural exports are the foundation of this province's economy, accounting for almost half of total exports. In 2017, Saskatchewan's agricultural exports were the fourth largest in the history of the province, with total sales of $13.6 billion. Because of Saskatchewan's location, our province is heavily reliant on transportation to get our products to the markets that need them in nearly 150 countries around the world. However, this journey from Saskatchewan fields to markets around the world faces bumps along the way. This spring, our farmers once again faced a major backlog for their crops. Farmers like Jim Wickett near Rosetown, who had 20,000 bushels of canola ready to go in January. But when the railways were unable to handle the capacity, his canola was left sitting in the bins until April. My government pushed the federal government to address this problem. Bill C-49, the Transportation Modernization Act, which was passed by the federal government in May. This act allows for railway companies to be penalized if they do not deliver promised rail cars. With the 2018 harvest wrapping up in most areas, we are hopeful this winter and spring will see our crop arrive on time to its many destinations around the world without any backlog for our producers. My government will continue to advocate on behalf of our farmers and ranchers to ensure that what they produce reaches markets around the world in a timely and effective manner. In order to free up rail lines for our agricultural industry, we need to ensure that rail lines are not above-ground pipelines for oil. An economist recently estimated that without the Trans Mountain Pipeline Expansion Project or the Keystone XL project, the demand for oil by train could increase 200% by the mid-2020s. My government will continue to advocate for pipelines as a safe, effective, and reliable method of transporting energy products. Saskatchewan and Western Canada oil needs to get across our country and around the world. Without pipelines, Saskatchewan is faced with economic challenges that we cannot solve on our own. This year's oil producers operating in our province would have earned an estimated $4.4 billion if they had access to international markets. My government would have received approximately $300 million in additional taxes, royalties, and other revenues. This lost revenue that could be spent on important programs and services. Right now, more than half the oil in Quebec and Atlantic Canada comes from foreign sources. It makes no sense that so many Canadians rely on foreign oil because of roadblocks created within our own country. Today, the courts have blocked the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion while the federal government is effectively ending the possibility of any future pipeline being built in this country through Bill C-69, which will make approval of future pipelines virtually impossible. Without pipelines to get our oil across the country, Saskatchewan must sell nearly all of our oil to one market, the United States, for sometimes as low as half the global price. My government will stand up for the jobs our oil and gas industry creates by continuing to press the federal government to take immediate action to get the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion built and to withdraw Bill C-69. My government will always stand up for the people of Saskatchewan and the interests of our province. While we face many challenges, Saskatchewan people are determined, resilient, resourceful, and tenacious. My government will always reflect those qualities as it stands up for our province and works to build a stronger Saskatchewan. May divine providence continue to bless our province and guide this assembly in all of its deliberations. God bless Saskatchewan. God bless Canada. God save the Queen.
I now invite Elder Betty McKenna.
Ayaw gisigaw. Miigwech Jamato, miigwech ni Mamaki. Kikitama. Kizomanigo, migo tatmano tot juvenatun. Ano tot migeadent. Sigi so tatagiven. Bigmata so tamanen, you with a small cowardun. Sigi da sigat. And we do that thing to an and more talking agency. You want to tell Aku dan si space so that menesis the paces so that you get to know that it's not top 10 and no tanging and beauty. The good chimato smart not net is she. Nima mati, tiki with us is square so tamati. Chigi not tiki to what us spinota, miniato. I ask a blessing for the people of Saskatchewan that we live with love for our land, that we live with the spirit of sharing, and a blessing for those who serve to keep us safe, healthy, and free. Our freedom is not so free. Every day we should remember those that put their lives on the line every day for us. that freedom. We ask, O Great Spirit, that we're blessed being able to honor them today and always. A blessing of relationships and friendships that may continue to build our province into the blessing and a glowing star of refuge for families to come to find hope, to find a good life, of endless skies, golden wheat fields, and dancing northern lights, with people with loving hearts as big as our province. Miigwech Chimam. Miigwech.
Thank you, Elder McKenna. I now invite Imam Michael, Mohammed Maslowa, to address the Assembly.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace be upon all of you. الذين يوفون بعهد الله ولا ينقضون الميثاق والذين يصلون ما أمر الله به أن يوصل ويخشون ربهم ويخافون سوء الحساب والذين صبروا ابتغاء وجه ربهم وأقاموا الصلاة وأنفقوا مما رزقناهم سرا وعلانية ويدرؤون بالحسنة السيئة أولئك لهم عقبى الدار جنات عدن يدخلونها ومن صلح من آبائهم وأزواجهم وذرياتهم والملائكة يدخلون عليهم من كل باب سلام عليكم بما صبرتم فنعم عقبى الدار. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. The people of reason are those who honor the God's covenant, never breaking the pledge, and those who maintain whatever God ordered them to maintain, stand in awe of the Lord and fear strict judgment. And there are those who endure patiently, seeking the Lord's pleasure, donate from what we have provided for them secretly and openly, and respond to evil with good. It's they who will have the ultimate abode, the gardens of eternity, which they will enter along with the righteous among their parents, spouses, descendants, and the angels will enter upon them from every gate, saying, Peace be upon you for your perseverance. How excellent is the ultimate abode. O God, bless us as we begin our new day. Bless this assembly. Bless the people of Saskatchewan and Canada. Bless this assembly and the people and the nation it represents. Shower your mercy upon all of us. Bring more peace, harmony, tolerance, and acceptance to this beautiful, peaceful land of Canada. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Elder McKenna and Imam Maslowa.
Please rise for the departure of Imam.
I'll begin with our traditional assembly prayer. Present us, O Lord, in all our doings with thy most gracious favor, and further us with thy continual help, that in all our works begun, continued, and ended in thee, we may glorify thy holy name, and finally, by thy mercy, attain everlasting life. Amen. Please be seated. I recognize the Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would move that a bill respecting the administration of oaths of office be now introduced and read the first time.
It has been moved by the Honourable Premier that the said bill be now introduced and read the first time. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion?
First reading of this bill.
I wish to inform the Assembly that the pages for this session will be Sherilyn Busdell, Cameron Cosma, Azriel McReinhardt, Samara Mamani, and Joseph Villaforte. I wish to inform the Assembly that in order to prevent mistakes, I've obtained a copy of the speech of His Honor, the Lieutenant Governor, which I now lay on the table. I recognize the Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the speech of His Honor, the Lieutenant Governor, be taken into consideration on Thursday, October the 25th, 2018.
It has been moved by the Premier that the speech of His Honor, the Lieutenant Governor, be taken into consideration on Thursday, October 25th, 2018. Is it a pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried. Recognize the Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I now move that this House does adjourn.
Before putting the question on the adjournment motion, I have a few announcements to make. I'd like to thank all the guests and members of the public for joining us today. I want to thank the members of the judiciary from the Court of Appeal, the Court of Queen's Bench, and the Provincial Court for your attendance today. Thank you, Elder Betty McKenna, Imam Mohammed Maslowa, for taking part in today's ceremony. I'd like to introduce the school groups that are with us today. In the East Gallery, we have the Law 30 class from F.W. Johnson Collegiate here in Regina. And in the West Gallery, we have students from Rossturn High School. I'd like to thank all of you, along with your teachers, for attending today's ceremony. Welcome also to the Campbell Collegiate Chamber Choir. They're seated in the West Gallery, and I'll be calling on them to sing for us in a few moments. Also, thank you for Miles Newman for taking part in today's ceremony by playing the Vice-Regal Salute. I would like to thank the members of the following Saskatchewan-based regular and reserve force units for providing us with the Guard of Honor earlier this afternoon. 15 Wing Moose Jaw, 1st Regiment Royal Canadian Horse Artillery, Regina Royal Rifles, Saskatchewan Dragoons, 38 Signals Regiment, 38 Service Battalion, 16 Field Ambulance, and HMCS Queen. As well, I would like to thank the 10 Field Regiment, the Royal Canadian Artillery, for the 15-gun salute. I'd also like to invite everyone to join His Honor, the Premier, the Leader of the Opposition, members of the Legislative Assembly at the Speaker's Tea, which will take place immediately following the Chamber ceremony. The tea will be in 2 locations, Room 218 in the West Wing and the Library Reading Room in the East Wing. It has been moved by the Premier that this House do now adjourn. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried. I would now like to welcome the Campbell Collegiate Chamber Choir under the direction of Deidre Baird. They'll be singing two songs for us, Abide With Me and Elijah Rock. Ladies and gentlemen, the Campbell Collegiate Chamber Choir.
Elijah rock, Ain't nothing but a stick in the grass. He's a carter, he's a liar. Hallelujah, Lord. Elijah rock, Elijah rock, oh, Elijah rock, Elijah rock, Elijah rock, oh, Elijah rock, Elijah rock, Elijah rock, oh, Elijah rock, Elijah rock, Elijah rock, Elijah rock, oh, Elijah rock, Elijah rock, Elijah rock.
On behalf of all present, I'd like to thank the choir for that very fine performance. Thank you so much. One final announcement. I ask that members and guests observe the following order when departing from the chamber. Speaker's Party, His Honor's Party, Premier and Provincial Secretary, Leader of the Opposition, Judges of the Court of Appeal, Queen's Bench, Provincial Court, members of the Cabinet and their spouses, other members of the Legislative Assembly and their spouses, guests. This House stands adjourned until tomorrow, Thursday, October the 25th, to 10 a.m. Thank you so much, everyone.